Okay, so based on the video, right? Can anyone tell me what are some what are some things? How do you know something is a living thing? Sam, how
Can
do you know
breathe,
if something, yes,
can breathe.
can breathe? So basically they need air to survive, is it? Okay, good. Ishan, how about you? Can you give how can you tell whether something is a living thing or a non-living thing?
If it's a living thing, it can move. If it's a non-living thing, it can't move. Only
Okay, so
some.
move, good movement. So you are saying it can living things can move, non-living things cannot move. Good. Okay, Kawin, one more. How about you?
Living things need water.
Good. So living things need to drink water to survive. Non-living things don't need to drink water to survive. So very good. I think you all have some idea about what living things need or what living things can do, while what non-living things don't need or what they cannot do. Okay. So before we go into these characteristics, okay, let's list some examples of living and non-living things. All right. So, Sam, can you give me an example of a living thing?
Elephant.
Elephant. Okay. So basically, he listed an animal. Good. Okay, Yishan.
A dolphin.
Okay, dolphin is also an animal. Good. Okay, Kawin, can you name something that's not an animal?
A rock.
A rock? What do y'all think? Is a rock a living thing or a non-living thing?
No.
Sam says no. Yishan, what do you think? So we put rock here. Yishan, what do you think? Living or non-living? Yishan?
Non-living.
Kawin, why do you say a rock is living? Does
I
a rock
thought
need to...
non-living. I thought you said non-living.
No, I say give an example of a living thing that is not an animal.
A human.
A human is an animal lah. Just now the video got suggest some other non-animal living things. Anybody has any idea? Yes, Sam?
Tree.
Good. So what I'm looking at is plants. Very good. Okay, so these are some examples of living things. Good. Okay, so non-living things. Okay, Kawin just now said rock. What else do we have, Ishan?
Toys.
Good. Your toys don't need to breathe in air, don't need to eat food. Sam, one more example.
Pen.
Very good. Okay, so it all seems like you guys know what is a living thing and what is a non-living thing. Now, I want you all to think about these three items. Okay, we will talk about it later. I just want you to think in your mind. Okay, is a chicken wing a living thing? Okay, is a
No.
cloud in the sky a living thing? Is
No.
bacteria in our body that makes us sick a living thing? Okay, so I want you to think about these three things that I have listed down. Okay, I will go through it later. All right, so remember chicken wing, cloud in the sky, and bacteria in our body. Okay? Okay, so let's move on. Now, how do I know if something is a living thing or not? Okay, if it is a living thing, okay, it should have all the characteristics of a living thing. What is characteristic? Can I have my eyes on on the screen, please? What are characteristics? Characteristics are properties or features. What do I mean by that? Now, I want you to look at this cube. You all know this is a cube, right? The image on the right. Okay, Karin, can you tell me what is a characteristic of the cube? What is a property of the cube? Any idea? What are some properties of a cube? Ishan or Sam, you can help him. He doesn't seem to be very sure. Yes, Kawin?
It has flat surface.
Good. That is a characteristic. Very good. So you notice that all the surfaces are flat. Very good, Kawin. Okay, so this is one characteristic of the cube. Yishuan, can you try? What is another characteristic of the cube? How many surfaces does it have?
It has 6 surfaces.
Yeah, so that is another property or characteristic of a cube. It has 6 surfaces. Okay, Sam. Now, if you look at all the sides of the cube, you notice that all the sides are what? Are they equal or they are not equal, Sam?
Equal.
Yeah, so that is one more characteristic of the cube. All the sides are equal. So now do y'all kind of understand what a characteristic is? All these things can be used to describe the cube. These are properties of the cube. So similarly, characteristics of living things are things that can be used to describe the living thing. Okay? And in order for something to be a living thing, it needs to have all the characteristics of living things. What are the characteristics of living things? Let's look at them. So we have 6, okay? 6 characteristics of living things. So one living thing, in order to be a living thing, it needs to have all these 6 properties. The first one, someone mentioned this just now, the air and the water, right? So all living things need air, food, and water to survive. Agree? Correct or not? Everybody understands. Now, what is the most important? Is it air, food, or water, Yishuan? Which one do you think is the most important amongst the 3 items?
Air.
Yes. So everybody, if you hold your breath for too long, okay, if you cover your nose for more than 5 minutes, you will definitely die. So we know air is the most important. The next most important is water. Okay, so our body can probably last without water for maybe 3-4 days. That's the maximum. But without food, we maybe can last for 1 or 2 weeks. So in that order, air is the most important, followed by water, followed by food. Understand? So first characteristic, I want you all to remember, living things need air, food, and water to survive. Okay, next one. Living things can grow. Okay, so if I see a thing growing, it is likely to be a living thing. Now we look, this plant is growing from a seed to a adult plant. It's growing, right? Similar for the puppy. You see a baby puppy, and then finally you see an adult dog. So that's growing. So if you think about yourself as well, okay? You grew from a little tiny baby. Now you are a child. Eventually you will grow into a teenager and adult. So that's you growing. Okay? So remember, all living things grow. Everybody okay? Okay, let's move on to the third characteristic. Living things can reproduce. What do you mean by reproduce? So if you can see this female dog has a few puppies, so it has just reproduced. Reproduce means the adult produce more individuals because eventually the adult will die, right? So it needs to produce some babies so that its species will continue to survive. Do we understand? Do you all know what reproduce is? Sam, okay? Can you stop playing with the toy, please? We are having lesson. This is not show and tell. Can? So everybody remember the 3 characteristics? Okay, I am going to wait. Okay, so now I am going to test you all to see if you all remember the first 3 characteristics or if you all were sleeping. Yeah. Okay, so who can tell me What is the first characteristic of living thing that we talked about? Yes, Karin, very good.
Need air, food, and water.
To survive. Very good. So Karin mentioned the first one is living things need air, food, and water to survive. Okay, very nice. Yishuan, what is the second characteristic that I talked about?
It will reproduce.
Can. Very good. Living things reproduce. Good. Okay, Sam, last one. What
Grow.
is the very good? So proud of you all. So living things grow. Okay, so now remember teacher said that there are 6 characteristics. We have already covered 1, 2, 3, halfway there. So let's look at the other 3 characteristics. Okay, what is the 4th one? Now, I think Yishuan mentioned this, correct? You said living things can move. That is correct. So living things can move by themselves, but this is very important. I want you to take note. Okay? Only animals can move from one place to another place. Plants cannot. So think of an animal, okay, the bird. The bird can fly from Toa Payoh to Sengkang. But can the plant move from Toa Payoh all the way to Sengkang on its own? Cannot, right? However, the plant can move and face the sunlight. So that is considered moving, but its movement is much smaller. So imagine the flower maybe is just facing down, but gradually as you leave it in a room where the light is above, it might tilt upwards. So that is the flower moving upwards, but it cannot move from place to place. Okay, yes, Sam, you have a question? Don't have? Okay, so we're all good. Living things can move by themselves. Let's look at the 5th example. The 5th characteristics. Living things respond to changes around them. What do I mean by that? So let's look at this person first. Okay, you see this person, he go and touch the hot stove and suddenly he feels pain, he lifts his hand. That is responding to change. Correct? He touches the stove, it's hot, he lifts his hand. Right? Look at this flower, all right? So this plant is growing towards the sunlight. But if now the sun moves towards the right, you notice that the plant will also grow towards the sunlight. That is responding to changes around them. Understand? Are we good, boys? Okay. I can't see someone's face. Let me shift down. Yeah, mouse a bit weird. Okay, what is the 6th example? 6 characteristics. All living things will die. This one makes sense. Correct? All living things, when they grow up, when they reach an old age, they will die. They won't live forever and ever and ever. Okay? So these are the other 3 characteristics of living things. Are we ready? Do you want to test yourselves to see if you can remember them? Shall we test ourselves? Okay, Sam says yes. Okay, so let's move. Since I wrote some here, what are the other 4? Okay, Sam, you were so ready. Tell me what is the 4th characteristic of living things?
We will die.
Okay, all living things will die. Very good. What about the 5th one? Karin, I saw you raise your hand. Give me the 5th one.
Respond to changes.
Very good. So all living things respond to changes around them. So y'all know the centipede or the millipede, right? If you were to touch, if y'all ever play with a centipede or millipede, if you touch it, what do you notice? It will curl up. Correct? So that's responding to change. Okay, Yishuan, what is the 6th characteristic? Last one.
You can move by yourself.
All living things can move. Okay.
Excuse me.
Now, Yishuan, can plants move from one place to another place?
No.
Only animals, correct? But plants can move slightly. Like, for example, they can tilt their flower towards the